Yet another session about AI, but before everybody tunes out, we wanted to take it back to first principles. Maybe a little bit about LLYC here first. You had Ente Cuenca. We're headquartered in Madrid, Spain, and we're also in 12 other countries across the world, really concentrated in Europe, Latin America, and have a growing presence here in the US. So our three main talent hubs are New York City, Miami, and Detroit. So I'm located in Miami. Grew up in the Midwest, so it's good to be back here. But like I said, as we were looking at refreshing our 3-year strategic plan at LLYC just a couple of months ago, we talked about AI, just like how everyone else is talking about AI. But as a company, we've been working with AI for the past decade now. Back when it was machine learning, back before we had all these different buzzwords here. But as we were thinking about how it affects and impacts the strategic plan here for these next 3 years, it really came back to those first principles around, why are we using AI? How can we utilize it not just for ourselves, for our clients, for the stakeholders that we have across the globe? And it came back to imagination, right? And how, when I started my career 20 years ago, imagination was the most powerful tool that we had to create lasting campaigns, to have impact, to call people to action. And that's changed a little bit, but I don't think as much as we'd like to tell ourselves, right? And so really I wanted to chat a little bit just around how that next mindset is shaping not just the imagination that we have to create compelling campaigns, but then how do we leverage AI and the tools at our fingertips to really make sure that those campaigns are being interpreted in a way that resonates with an audience that, let's be honest, isn't human. All that entire audience is not all human, right? And so how can we train the large language models, the AI tools that are out there to really be able to capture that imagination that each and every one of us have as we're thinking through our different campaigns and such. So to set the table a little bit, so there's 600 million people that are using AI tools today, right? So 10% of the population. And really, ChatGPT was able to hit 100 million users in just 2 months. And maybe one other stat to throw out too, Harvard did a study around using AI and artificial intelligence and found that AI was able to help individuals finish tasks 25% faster, but with a 40% increase in quality. And again, all of us that have used it on a daily basis can attest to how much these tools help us. So it's not really a what if we use AI or how we use AI, but rather what is the story that AI is telling about us, right? So it used to be that we would Google our companies, ourselves, really see, how is Google serving up those top 10 blue links about us, about our company? But it's the same thing with AI, as to how is AI telling our narrative, sharing our story around our brand, and what's the content that we're able to serve up to, again, we'll call it AI, such that it's telling a story that resonates with an audience that isn't just human. So really, this has been 25 years in the making, right? Just earlier this year, we hit an inflection point to where Google search had actually been on the decline for the first time in 25 years. At the same time, when ChatGPT prompts had increased, and this was April of last year, 13% month over month. And so really what we're finding is search is becoming the answer, right? Search is not just pointing to you as a brand or to your company, but it's representing your company. It's becoming an unauthorized spokesperson, if you will. And so as we're continuing to create content that ideally resonates with these large language models, what we found is as we took a sample size of about 120 companies, so including the Fortune 100, but less than half of those 120 companies were actually communicating their story in a way that resonated if you were to use a basic or even somewhat sophisticated prompt within, name your AI tool, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, you name it. And so as we tested these leading companies across these different sectors, what we found was that billions are spent every month, every year on visibility, but 70% of those brands were not able to fully tell their story in a way that resonated, that measurably resonated if you were to insert a prompt within ChatGPT or any other AI tool. So really those new interpreters of this information didn't even see a lot of what brands and companies were putting out at the time. And so this is what it really looks like in practice, right? And so we set up a prompt to where we asked about energy transition. And the first company that comes up that you might think about is ExxonMobil, right? And so even in that response that ChatGPT generated, it was, they talk about change, but they still live off oil. And so it was very telling because it wasn't a journalist that wrote this. It wasn't a competitor that tried to put this together as a hit piece against ExxonMobil, but rather it was the algorithm that read all of the evidence that was available to it. So the different data, the different press releases, right? Everything that was out there, it filled in that gap that sometimes we as marketers, consumer marketers, leave as a gap, and it sometimes helped us to be able to tell a story that resonates with the broader audience, right? And so this is where I say that AI really is becoming that unsolicited spokesperson for all of our brands. And as we look at it too, I mean, it's as simple as going to the grocery store, right? So I've got 2 kids. Back when they were younger, we would try to figure out, what's a good trade-off between a healthy cereal that still tastes good. I love Lucky Charms growing up, but as humans, we're looking at it through the lens of what is that affinity that I have with this brand? What are the emotions that I have with the brand? Maybe I might look at a couple data points on the side of the box and say, all right, well, there's X amount of calories here, or Y amount of sugar there. But that's where we're good as humans. We'll take small pieces of data that are high quality points of data and make decisions accordingly. Whereas AI is looking at it through the lens of show me everything. And I'm going to take this huge data set and infer, predict, however we want to use the tool to be able, in this scenario, find what is that best cereal that's going to be the best for my 8-year-old. And so again, there can be that gap to where humans love that habit, that affinity, but if your story says one thing and your data that's out there says another, there's going to be that gap, right? And how do you decrease that gap? And so as we were looking at this over the years, especially within our marketing solutions business, there's a lot to be done as it relates to playing off emotion, playing off that affinity, being able to tell your story in a way that compels people to act. But as I said, now that the audience is a bit more synthetic, that's another audience that we need to consider. And so as we think about machine marketing or whatever tagline you want to put against it, we also need to be mindful that we're communicating and speaking to machines, right? So there's 2 audiences, 2 languages, but 1 reputation that really ties this all together. So that's where that consumer marketing really builds on the human emotion, whereas that machine marketing is really helping those algorithms comprehend the stories that we're trying to tell, because that's one thing that's I don't think is ever going to leave our industry is that storytelling component. But how can we leverage these tools that we have today to be able to scale the story that we're trying to tell? And really, we've seen this movie before, right? So the first adopters of Google were able to build very strong, solid companies early on in the internet, that first phase of the internet. As social media became a bigger thing, those first movers were the ones that were able to build very strong audiences that are still strong today. And that's going to be the same here with AI. We really see this as a critical inflection point of those first movers that are really trying to understand how am I telling that story from a consumer and a machine marketing point of view are the ones that are going to continue to win for the next decade and beyond. Because really it comes down to mentions in AI. Because really that every mention that AI has of us is equivalent to being on that first page with those blue links as you're searching for something in Google. And what we're finding here too is that maybe that's the simplest way to look at this in AI, the mention has significant value, even without having to click, right? So, like I said, search is no longer search, but it's more answers, right? And so how is your brand, how is your company within this conversation? How is your brand having that credibility, the data to back it up, and the trust of these algorithms such that the answer that these algorithms are serving up as people are putting in prompts are just that, answers, to help them guide and make a decision, whether or not it's the best cereal for their 8-year-old child, or whatever the prompt might be. But what we're finding here in these early stages is a lot of it rests on that citation and making sure that there's an alignment between identity and information. So how do we adapt, right? And I know there's a lot on this slide here, but first and foremost, it's all about auditing. So take a look at, what am I doing today? What are the stories we're telling today? And even put in a prompt within ChatGPT, Perplexity, wherever. Ask it about your brand. See what it does end up serving up. There's a fun exercise that we like to do with a lot of our clients to where we'll ask it to generate an image and say, hey, based on what you know today for client XYZ, generate an image and be honest, right? And so we'll take that image and then we'll go to the client and say, hey, if we were going to do a search on ChatGPT or put in a prompt, help us understand what that image would look like. And it's night and day difference just about every time. And it's not so much because the brand isn't doing what it needs to do around content and really making sure that the algorithm is picking up the stories that they want, but rather it's making sure that they're narrowing that gap with the information that's out there, and making sure that they're telling a coherent, cohesive story, not just that's going to hit that first page of Google search, but across all the AI tools that are out there. So second is to optimize it, right? To really take that data, to train it. There's opportunities to do A/B testing and really figure out what's resonating and what isn't. And then third is to automate, really use that technology. There's a lot of talk about synthetic FTEs, agents that we could be leveraging. I mean, there's so many things that we could be doing with AI that, again, one, we wanted to bring it back to first principles, but then two, really determine where is your company at, where is your brand at within AI, and wherever you're at, I mean, that's where you stand, or that's where you start, right? And then lastly, to amplify and scale. And so one concept I want to make sure we don't lose sight of is that creativity will never go away. Even today, as we use AI tools to generate pictures, images, video, there's still, I think there will always be that human element to ensuring that that image, that video, whatever it is that we're creating with these AI tools resonates not just with the algorithm audience, but also too with the human audience at the same time. And so we really believe that this is bigger than marketing. It's a transformation on how we're really imagining the future here. And I think what's exciting is that if AI is the world's new mirror, the world's new translator, then at the same time it's also our new mirror, right? And so that could be liberating, but daunting at the same time too. And so interpretation has really been outsourced to these algorithms. And so how can we really make sure that these algorithms are consuming the data that we wanted to, but then also to understanding where are they consuming these data points. And so kind of to bring it back full circle here, it really means thinking differently about creativity. In the past, the creativity, the craft, the expression, those were all things that we would put out there for the world to consume. And so I think we still do that, we still focus on that, but one thing that doesn't get lost, and that's in each of these sides, is creativity, right? And so with the machine marketing, that's where we're able to scale up our efforts and make sure that we're hitting not necessarily just the broadest audience possible, but then also too that we remain intentional in these campaigns, in these communications that we're pushing out to the world. And so with that, I've got a QR code. I wanted to leave you with so we created a website that has a lot of our learnings over the last several years around AI, how we use it. May it be like we heard about for crisis, for consumer, you name it. But for us, this really is the next mindset. Like I talked about in preparation for refreshing our 3-year strategic plan. It's not about just using AI, but really understand how does AI communicate your brand, and making sure that we truly understand that, because every brand really now needs 2 voices. One that moves people, but then one that has that accuracy for the algorithms to really understand. And so that's where this dual MarComs feature really, I think, comes into play and has a very powerful aspect to it. Because as we're looking to scale our brands, the communication around those brands, it's not just human versus AI, but we feel like it's human plus AI. And that's really, we feel like, the best way to be able to scale and generate that awareness and that engagement that all of us are looking for each of our clients, and also for our own brands for that matter. So with that, I appreciate the time. And if we have time for questions, I know we're long, but.